My name is John Barker, aka your grandma's favorite pitmaster, aka the Love Sausage, and today you're at the Skull and Mortar Kitchen. Today we're doing brisket. I know we've done it before, but today we're gonna do a Texas style brisket. Let's get it. Guys, before we get into the deep on this video, this brisket right here comes from Porter Road. It's dry aged 14 days. They work with top-notch farmers who use free-range animals. They're treated as humanely as possible. And look at this through the package. You guys want to open this up and see what it really looks like, don't you? Let me show you. Now, the cool thing about Porter Road, the thing I like about them is sometimes, especially with dope beef cuts, they're extremely hard to get where I live. But Porter Road, you just log right on. You pick the cuts of meat you want. They send them to you. You get them quick as hell. Come on, look at that brisket. That's fire right there. Get up close here. Look at that marbling. See those lines of fat through there? We got a nice little cap here. We're gonna trim that back so we can really get into this meat. 14 days dry aged, treated humanely, pasture raised, hand-picked meats by Porter Road, butchered by the best butchers on the planet, and then sent directly to your door, just like going to a grocery store, but online. It's awesome. Let's get in here and trim this. Typically, I would use a boning knife, but I didn't pull it out, so we're going here with the chef's knife. We're gonna trim back this fat on the top. We wanna get as much of that top fat off and expose that meat underneath. Look at that, friggin' beautiful. I would expect nothing less from Porter Road at this point. You know, I've used their meat several times for several videos. Now, we're not doing burn ends, so we're not gonna worry too much about, getting a good separation line and stuff with that, but we are going to trim out some of that fat because it's not gonna render. And you just kind of work yourself through, make small controlled cuts. You don't have to be a lunatic here. Just take your time, and since we're just cooking this for ourselves, I'm not even really worried about doing a premium trim job. I just want to do a good job. All right, guys, so we got a pile of trimmings over here. Don't just throw these away, guys. You can use this for lots of stuff. I'm gonna tell you guys a secret. Most Texas pitmasters lie to you when they tell you all they do is rub and cook the meat. Most of the time, they inject with beef tallow. You can make beef tallow with this fat right here. You just put it on like low, medium heat, and you just kind of sit that in there and let it turn to liquid. If you've never had beef tallow, it's a legitimate treat. I use it for all kinds of stuff. I don't have any beef tallow today, so I am gonna do this without injecting beef tallow. I'm not gonna inject it off screen and tell you that I didn't. I'm really gonna go in dry here because we're gonna make it as traditionally Texas as possible. I'm gonna save these. I'm actually gonna throw all these scraps in the freezer. You can use them, add them to hamburger meat, like if you wanna grind chuck roast. You can do all kinds of stuff with this. Meat is expensive, guys. Do not throw this away. Use it for something. All right, guys, so this is not a super clean trim, but the fat that's left should render out, so I'm not too worried about it. The back here, I typically like a little more fat cap here, but this one's been trimmed pretty aggressively. But this is a fairly decent trim, even though there's some exposed meat for most people. So I think for probably most likes, this is gonna be about perfect. You normally don't leave it more than 1/4 of an inch. So we do have some sections that are closer to 1 inch, but I'm gonna leave it on, and I'm gonna show you why I'm gonna leave it on here in a minute. So for starters, we're gonna use that Gravestones rub. I know I've been using it a lot lately. I don't regret it. It's killer, especially for Texas style stuff. Why is it killer? Because it has salt, it has pepper, it has garlic, it has onion. All of these things are traditional Texas flavors. Again, pitmasters who tell you they're using salt and pepper and then have those huge lines are not really telling you the truth. It's mainly salt and pepper, but there's some other stuff in there too. Watch some old Franklin videos. He's BSing you guys. That being said, we've got our rub here, and we're gonna go ahead and add a few tablespoons of pepper. You can do this to your liking, but remember, pepper is the base flavor. Now, on top of that pepper, we're gonna dump some MSG, about a solid tablespoon. Now, there are inevitably gonna be some people who pretend like MSG is super bad for you. If you don't wanna eat the MSG, don't friggin' put it in there, but MSG is gonna make your food way better. Now, we're gonna take a little bit of that God Save the Queen, check out that old bottle, old label, Retro AF, and we're gonna go ahead We're gonna put a couple tablespoons of that in there as well. Now, typically, you know, when I do my normal brisket cooks I've done in the past, I've used that as like a top layer rub, but this time we're only gonna do one layer of rub. I still wanna have some variation though, so we have some pops in that. Now, we're gonna do something else different here with this particular rub. I have my brisket face up. Normally, I got the fat up, but I'm gonna explain why we're doing it a little different this time. So we're gonna go ahead and we are going to liberally season this. You can do it with a shaker bottle, you can do it by hand. It does not really matter. It just comes down to personal preference. I don't have any extra shaker bottles, or else I probably would, but we're gonna go ahead and get a fat boy layer all over this meat. Guys, now we're gonna flip the fat cap up. Okay, we're gonna actually cook this fat cap up this time. I know I never do that, but the reason we're doing this is because we're gonna go low and slow AF, guys. I'm gonna cook this. I know a lot of Texas style briskets go on and on about 14 plus hours. So we're gonna do that today. What we're gonna do, now we're cooking this fat cap up because we are going to low and slow it. We're gonna cook this guy for about 8-9 hours at 200 degrees before we even crank it up. We're gonna cook it all night. I'm literally gonna put this on at like 11 o'clock, midnight, and we're gonna cook it all freaking night till like 8 in the morning at 200 degrees. What this is really gonna allow it to do is it's gonna allow every fiber of fat in here to break down and really pack in the flavor. Since we're not doing some of the other cheat stuff I normally do, like using the pans, using the broth, using the mop, the injections, all that stuff, since we're going straight traditional Texas style, we're gonna go as low and slow as possible in that opening phase. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna let this sit for about 30 minutes. Then I'm gonna go fire up the smoker. And when the smoker gets up to 200 degrees, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna put it on the smoker, and we're gonna let it roll all night. Let's get to that montage, which will mysteriously be set in the daytime. All right, guys, look at that Texas bark we're building up there. Come on, dude. This is gonna be phenomenal. See that juice running out right there where we just pulled the probe out? That shows that we're doing it right. Again, we got this fat cap up. If you see it's still juicy, see how this juice is running down? That's why we're doing it fat cap up, because we were doing such a long cook that we wanted to make sure that this fat was basting the rest of the meat all night. So let's go ahead and get this bad boy wrapped up in the butcher paper. The butcher paper should help preserve that bark and keep it nice and dark, which is what we're looking for here, right? Because that's what we want, all those traditional Texas attributes. Currently at an internal temperature of about 155 degrees, which is a little early for a wrap, but again, that bark is looking exactly how we want it. So we're gonna go in hard and we're gonna get it wrapped early. We're going to 205. We'll check back here in a few hours. So guys, what do? We put our brisket on overnight at 200 degrees this morning. When I woke up, I cranked it up to 250 degrees after I wrapped it. So at this point, we are roughly 17 hours into the cook. So we did it as low and slow and possible. Check this out, all kinds of moisture. Let's open this up and see what we're working with. I'm just flipping the brisket everywhere for no real reason other than I want to. Wow, look at that, guys. You want that black ass bark? Well, let's cut it, guys. Let's see what we got. If I remember correctly, the grain went something like this. I guess we're gonna find out here in a second. Look at that, again. Look how moist we were able to keep it. And I really believe that going fat cap up helps with that because you're basically just basting the meat in its own fat all throughout the cook, which helps keep it moist, right? Look at that. Let's do the finger. Come on, Doug. You tell me. It smells great. Wow. Well, there's a reason why Texas rules beef barbecue. And this is it right here. Phenomenal. You can taste every last bit of the rub is popping in this. This is absolutely phenomenal brisket. In fact, this might be my new favorite method to cooking a brisket. It's really simple. I think that when I'm at home from now on, this is what I'm doing. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more tender, more delicious. I'm gonna eat this whole brisket by myself right now. Porter Road killing the game. SkullandMortar.com, PorterRoad.com. Check them out. Holler at your boy. We'll see you hopefully in less than a week with a brand new video. Trying to step it up, guys. Hit like and subscribe. I need friends. I'd like you to be one. I'm talking with a mouthful because I have no class. Deuces.